You know what? I've just been sitting in bed the last 15, 20 minutes after I made my notes, trying to find the motivation to record this video because I really can't be able to be bothered to record this video, to be honest. I really can't be bothered. But you know what? We've got a lot of Newcastle fans on this channel, and I know you guys will want my thoughts on your performance today because you guys were incredible. You were brilliant. You battered us. I mean, I think everyone thought you were probably going to win, considering the lineup we put out and how good you've been lately, and you've got a lot more to play for in the league. But you absolutely battered us. Livramento was unstoppable. Tonali, ridiculously good again. Harvey Barnes, fantastic. And yeah, we're going to go talk about Newcastle for Manchester United one, haven't we? We've got to talk about it. I mean, first of all, Newcastle, 4th place with a game in hand. They can go to 59 points, which is only 4 points behind Arsenal. They could finish second. They could actually finish second. And considering they didn't sign anyone in the summer, unless you count Lloyd Kelly, that's no longer there, and ECILA, who doesn't play. They basically didn't sign anyone in the summer. Eddie Howe hasn't decided in the last 3 windows. He could have won their first domestic trophy in 70 years, and they could finish second. Arsenal focused on the Champions League. They seriously could finish second. They are in ridiculous form right now, and they deserve to be where they are because they have been fantastic. And you've got to give credit where credit is due. Now, if you want my thoughts on Man United, it's over on Alice Talks Football. I have my own YouTube channel for Man United called Alice Talks Football, and my thoughts specifically on Manchester United are on there. Today's video, we're going to talk about Newcastle, because I've got Newcastle following on this channel, and I know that you guys are probably desperate to hear my thoughts on Newcastle. And the first answer is, my head was so clouded by the shiteness of Manchester United that I've actually had to think a bit. But yeah, let's talk about this. Newcastle were the better team. They deserve to win. Like, I can't be like, oh, but the ref got a yellow when he won the ball. I can't do an Arsenal and blame the refs. Newcastle were a level ahead of us today. Even when you were 1-0 up, it looked like you were going to make it 2-0, and you had opportunities, and then Garnacho went up the other end and scored a good goal, to be fair to him. And we were a little bit lucky to go in at 1-1 because it could have easily been 2-0 Newcastle then. But I thought at least Man United showed something in the first half. The second half, Man United just were pathetic. I mean, for me, the worst part of the game was losing Xerxes because, look, I will tell you one thing. Xerxes got booed off when we played Newcastle at Old Trafford today. Everyone was upset that he came off because everyone's realised he's a lot better than Højlund. And we need him for the Europa League. So my head was more annoyed that when Xerxes came off than when Newcastle made it 4-1. Newcastle could have won 9-0 today. I'd have probably been happier than because at least Xerxes stayed fit if they'd won 9-0. That doesn't make sense. What I'm trying to say is if Newcastle had won 9-0 and Xerxes didn't get injured, I'd have probably been happier than losing 4-1 with Xerxes injured. That's what I mean. Sorry. Oh. Anyway, yeah, you were the better team. We made mistakes. We made a lot of mistakes today. I mean, Bayendier isn't better than Onana, and I've said that for a while, but Onana had to sort of drop after Leon. But you have to give Newcastle credit. We can blame United as a United fan for making these silly mistakes, but we've also got to give Newcastle credit. They've got one of the best high presses in football, arguably the best high press in football. And we made 4 mistakes today, leading to goals. Well, actually, technically 2, but all 4 goals, players could have done better individually. And that's Newcastle's press. We could not play out from the back today. We were absolutely atrocious at playing out from the back. We could not play through them. It was one of the worst performances I've seen from Man United. And while Onana is bad, he's better than Bayendier with his feet. And maybe we missed him in that sense. And Newcastle, yeah, they forced us into errors. They capitalised on the errors. You were clinical. And you're one of the best teams in the world for that. And, we paid the price. We most definitely paid the price today. And it was painful. Like the only bright spark of our game was Harry Amas was all right. The 18-year-old kid, eh? But let's give credit to Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall. Of course, best wishes with Eddie Howe. Get well soon. Hope all is okay with him. But Jason Tindall, did a very good job today as well. And I look at it, and I look at the Newcastle team, and I think there was no addition in the last 3 transfer windows that's a first-team signing. And Eddie Howe is in a competitive Premier League with no signings in the last, 3 transfer windows. And Liverpool are 4th in the league, could go third if they win their game in hand, have played Manchester United off the park twice this season, although that's not an achievement it would have been 10 years ago because Manchester United are rubbish. You've battered many teams this season. Arsenal, who beat Real Madrid 3-0, they couldn't get near you in any of those games. And, players like Botman, who is one of the best centre-backs in the league, when fit, a huge player that's been missing. I think he's played, 3 to 5 games this season he's been available for. There wasn't any new first-team signs the last 3 windows. You've had players injured. Lewis Hall going is a massive loss, but Livramento has been class at left-back. And despite all of that, you're pushing for top 3. You could win second. You could come second and win your first cup in 70 years this season, despite nothing in the summer. What a job Eddie Howe's done, what a job Jason Tino's done. And I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. I really don't. I think everyone saw Eddie Howe as a stepping stone manager, but actually I think he's a manager that could achieve greatness at Newcastle United. So let's continue on. Do you ever think it was weird that this time last year, where people spoke about should Eddie Howe be sacked? Maybe it was a bit over a year ago, when you had a bit of a poor form, but you had half your squad injured, you had nobody fit, and people spoke about should Eddie Howe be sacked. It just shows you what a bit of patience and getting through an injury crisis can do. I mean, I wasn't like everybody, but there was a small percentage of Newcastle fans that wanted Eddie Howe sacked at one point online. I say the online ones, remember. But I always think it's crazy. But let's talk about Tonali. I'm going to talk about Tonali. I'm going to talk about Livramento and Barnes because they were the 3 standout players. But I said a couple of weeks ago, probably about 2 months ago, to be honest, that Tonali is becoming one of the most underrated players in the league. I was doing Premier League Team of the Season, and it was a really tough toss-up for midfield because I was like, well, Tonali's been unreal. Casado's been Chelsea's best player this season. Gravenberch's been unreal, but he has dropped off this last month. You've got players like McAllister that have been really good. Players like Kulusevski had a good start to the season and they've dropped off. Bruno Fernandes has been really good lately. But I said, you could make a point for Tonali being in Premier League Team of the Season. You've got Tielemans, you've got Tonali, you've got McAllister, Gravenberch, Casado, Bruno Fernandes, just to name a few. And if someone put Tonali in Premier League Team of the Season, you could not complain because he's been phenomenal for Newcastle. One of the most underrated players in the Premier League. Him and I think Hans is one of the most underrated players for Villa as well. But off the ball, he's such a good player. He's a monstrous player because off the ball, he can read danger. He can cover ground. He lets Bruno play higher. And Bruno Guimaraes, when he can be a bit higher at the pitch and be a bit more creative, you get the best out of Bruno Guimaraes, who was fantastic today. But on the ball, he keeps the ball ticking, build up play, carries well and finishes. Longstaff will run around a lot, but Longstaff can't do it on the ball. Tonali can run around a lot, but also has the intelligence when running around a lot. And then when has the ball, can do what you want on the ball. He's helping Newcastle progress. He's recycling play. He ran through our midfield today. It was like the 90th minute, and he just ran through our midfield. His work rate was insane. He runs and runs and runs. He's so powerful. He's got the speed. He's got the ball striking. 3 goals in 5 games. He is a complete leader and a ridiculously good midfielder. And if I could swap Agate for Sandro Tonali right now and click my fingers, I absolutely would. That's not going to happen, but we can dream. Continuing on, Livramento was on fire. It was between Barnes, Livramento, and Tonali for man of the match today. And do you know what I'm annoyed about? Was Livramento didn't even get me FPL points. I put Livramento in FPL and I was like, well, at least if Newcastle batter us, I'll get some FPL points because they've got the double game week. No. Isaac Livramento, they didn't get me my FPL points. So I didn't get anything out of this. Man United got battered, but I barely got any FPL points. Livramento should have got an assist for the second goal because that was all in. He was incredible. I mean, Dalot. You know what? Dalot's been quite good lately. I say lately. Dalot had a purple patch of about 5 games because he struggled a bit. The last 4 or 5 games, I've been impressed with Dalot. I was saying, Dalot's looking a lot better. And Mazraoui, who's arguably been probably our top 3 best players this season, got done today. Livramento's been class. I think he's better at left back. It's weird. I feel like he's carrying the ball more at left back. His energy, his ball carrying, his ability to take on defenders and pull in a good cross is what makes him deadly. He's a very competent defender. He's a very good jeweler. We've seen him against, the toughest opposition, and he's dealt well. Arsenal, Manchester City, Liverpool. We've seen him in big games. He was man of the match, arguably in the Carabao Cup final against Salah, and he deals well defensively. But going forward, the carrying, the ability to get up and down the flanks, the energy, the intensity, United couldn't cope with it. He was taking on his player and he was delivering a good cross. There's one thing being able to get past your player, but to actually deliver a good cross, he does that. And that left-hand side of Barnes and Livramento, it cooked us today. It absolutely cooked us today. Mazraoui and Dalot could not handle it. They absolutely couldn't. And Harvey Barnes, another shout out to him. Anthony Gordon is going to be harder than he thinks to get in that team. And Anthony Gordon is probably better than Barnes as an all-round package. But, with Harvey Barnes, he's a good goal scorer. He can cut in. He can shoot. He's a good goal scorer. But today it wasn't just the goals. The output and the confidence he had probably from the goals. But he was taking on his man. He was driving the ball. He was making things happen outside of the goal. And I thought Tino and Barnes were class. And I think if Harvey Barnes gets a consistent run of games, he stays fit, he builds up that fitness, he starts taking on his man more, dribbling more, there's a fantastic player in Harvey Barnes, and he could score an outrageously high amount of goals. He's always been a goal scorer. He's always had output, Harvey Barnes. He's very good at that, and he's been fantastic since Gordon's been out. He's stepped up big time, and having Harvey Barnes, Jacob Murphy, Isak and Gordon as attacking options very good. You add an Mbeumo to that, and your attack's got that little bit of depth that you need because Callum Wilson's finished. ECILA, it's very early days. You get maybe another midfielder for depth if Willocken goes, if Milo goes out on loan, Longstaff will probably go. Obviously, you need a centre-back. If you get a Hoyson or a Gay and you get an Mbeumo and then you just improve the depth, maybe goalkeeper elsewhere, you've got a very good squad. Because I look at Newcastle and I say their best starting 11 can really compete in the Champions League. You can really compete in the Champions League with your best starting 11. You can take the big teams on their day. But what you do need is just that little bit of depth for when you get back in Europe. Because last season, when you were back in Europe, you struggled in the league because of the injuries. You just need that depth. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching today's video. Do let me know your thoughts down below. See you next time. Bye.